Tim, I wish that I had thought before you sat down to pull your slaying of Piers Morgan, because the story you tell to Piers Morgan about why Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have never met is, to me, a wonderful story should she decide to explain why they weren't on the same stage in 2020. Tell the story here.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that again when you read that quote from the Trump aides. So they said that he can't contain his animosity. And it's like, why? I mean, there's no reason for that other than sexism or racism or jealousy, because they haven't met. Donald Trump doesn't know Kamala Harris. What reason does he have to have animosity towards her? He just can't help himself, right? This impulse control. And so, going back to what you asked about, what I chatted with Piers Morgan about. Piers had interviewed Corey Lewandowski, and they had this little softball interview right before I spoke to them. And Corey was like, "You won't believe this, Piers, but Donald Trump and Kamala have never met. This will be the first time." And Piers is like, "Wow, that's amazing." And they had this chummy little chat where Piers begs Corey to let Donald do an interview with him. And I came on next and I said, "Well, wait a minute. Did you ever think to ask him why they haven't met?" They didn't meet because Donald Trump lost in 2020. He had a temper tantrum like a child. And for the first time since the Civil War, we did not have a peaceful transfer of power. For the first time, the ceremonial transfer of power did not include the existing administration working with and passing the baton to the incoming administration. He didn't show up to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's inauguration. He flew home to Mar-a-Lago and his emotional support Cougars, and he golfed, and he had a temper tantrum. That's what Donald Trump did. That's why they haven't met, because he's a baby. And so, like thinking about what Ruth mentioned at the beginning, all of that is context for this debate, right? This is the first debate that these two have had since that. This is the first time we've had debates since somebody attempted a coup and did not participate in the oldest democracy's peaceful transfer of power, and now he wants to be back in that White House again. And I think it is important to think about that context and to talk about it, and to talk about it just bluntly and frankly, because, like Ruth says, this isn't like Mitt Romney versus Obama, right? It is different. It is different in nature because it's the first time that they will be on stage together, and it's the first time we'll have somebody that's been convicted of felonies on that stage, the first time somebody's been impeached twice. On that stage with her. And so, it's not her job to kind of bring all of that up, the whole debate. I think Matt makes some really good points about what her job is, to introduce herself, to show strength, to pick her spots. But I think at times it's important for the moderators and for the vice president to kind of just remind people of the reality in a frank way, so that people understand, the viewers watching, why this crazed madman is on stage with her.
Minnie, I picked up on this idea that Trump may not be able to contain himself, because no aide would say that about a woman, right? She might not be able to contain herself. It suggests a lack of control. And only a male advisor to a male candidate would project onto the pages of the New York Times their candidate's lack of control when sharing a stage with a woman. It's a remarkable framing for the Trump campaign to be offering up tonight, that if he attacks her in a ghoulish, sexist, misogynistic, racist way, it won't be his fault. It will be because he couldn't contain himself. And it has an echo back to something we covered yesterday, the Access Hollywood tape and the record of close to 24 women credibly accusing Donald Trump of sexual misconduct and sexual assault. All of that is now ballasted to a policy that affects every woman with a womb, every woman who has ever had a child, every woman who thinks she might someday want to have a child, any woman who ever looked back and remembered being able to have a child, and every man and child who loves any one of those women in any of those stages in her life. And that is overturning Roe and bragging about it. Tell me how you think his misogyny might be experienced differently in a post-Roe era.
This is the Donald Trump story, right? His entire life, he's had guys around him excusing his behavior and making excuses, and he's been successful anyway. So honestly, why would he behave any differently? He won this way. I'm a 2016 alumni of Hillary Clinton. This is the same Donald Trump. He's learned nothing. If anything, he's gotten worse. The big difference is those voters that Matt was talking about, those folks who are still in the middle or undecided. You know, we've talked about this. A lot of Americans are just dialing into the election now. They don't know Kamala Harris. They may not understand that the overturning of Roe is solidly Donald Trump's fault. So our job tonight is to echo that. But I know the vice president, she's going to come in and make that point, and she's going to aggressively prosecute the case. Donald Trump did this, and what she's going to do to fix it. And that is how she's able to, with her prosecutorial style, I believe, and her empathy and her deep commitment and expertise on this issue, she can really turn this around. Trump is this misogynist. He's never really cared about anyone but himself, let alone women in this country and American families. And here's what he did, and here's what I will do. That's a really important message tonight, in addition to her character, folks getting to know her. They want to see solutions and specifics. This is an issue that is not partisan anymore. We know Republicans and independents are interested in this position and want to see a fix to the disastrous overturning of Roe.